Let's chat all things low carb, keto, digestion, and more so you can maximize your results.
So, can you be successful in keto without intermittent fasting? Now, this is a question that I see over and over, especially from those who are brand new to keto. And at that point, the idea of intermittent fasting usually sounds pretty scary. So, today, let's talk about intermittent fasting, whether or not you really need it, and once it stops sounding quite so scary, how to get started with an easy fasting routine of your own. Now, in case you're new here, I'm Nissa and I lost more than 100 pounds with an easy keto and, yes, intermittent fasting lifestyle. I struggled for decades with the same methods that we all learn in the mainstream, but ever since I found an easier way to lose weight and keep it off, I teach women how to ditch yo-yo diets for good with my Ready Set Keto method. So, as you are popping on today, be sure to say hello to me. Let me know that I am not just sitting here talking to myself. Even if you watch this in the replay, I want you to say hello. So, can you be successful on keto without also adding in fasting? Because the two have just kind of become synonymous with each other. So, the quick answer to this one is yes. Most people can find success just by dropping carbs and focusing on eating more real foods like a good keto plan allows. But adding intermittent fasting to your keto routine isn't really necessary for weight loss. In fact, even adding keto to a low carb routine isn't 100% necessary for weight loss, since so many can see a lot of success just with following an easy low carb lifestyle. If you remember, I lost my first 70 pounds by just working to improve digestion, which we talk about in here a lot, and also with following a low carb plan. But when you do follow keto correctly and you become fat adapted, that's when intermittent fasting actually becomes really easy. So it's kind of silly not to add it. So now that your body is busy feasting on all of your stored fat, once you become fat adapted, so you don't feel the need to eat every 2 to 3 hours like most people do, and intermittent fasting has so many health benefits that come along with it when you follow it correctly. So the question really becomes is, why wouldn't you want to add intermittent fasting to your keto routine? I see some people are on. Hi, Maggie and Mary and Paula. Hi, Janie and Jessica. Jessica said, oftentimes intermittent fasting often happens naturally over time, and it definitely does. And that's when it's really easiest to add to your plan. So and a lot of people say that it is really easy to add to your plan. Hey, CJ. And it is. For me personally, I actually had to purposely add it to my plan. Like it didn't just come naturally to me because I'm a very schedule-oriented person. And, I abide by the schedule. So if I wake up every day and eat at 7, then that's what I'm going to do. And I think a lot of people are that way. So if you're not used to the schedule, that a lot of times you'll just fall into it naturally. But if you are and you're not sure how to get started, then we're going to talk about that today. So back when I started my low carb lifestyle in 2014, when I began lowering carbs, that's all that was really talked about. And for me, that was a drastic enough change to start with at first. Switching from the fuel source where I ate 50 to 60% of my fuel from carbs, like we're taught to do, to eating less than 5 to 10% of my daily calories from carbs was a big enough change for me to get started with, and it was hard enough to adjust to that. So if you're new, just stay there and don't feel the need to rush to even keto macros. Or if you're just starting on keto, don't feel the need to rush to add intermittent fasting because this is a lifestyle. And if you rush to do everything all at once, then it's probably going to feel overwhelming and you're just going to quit everything. So just take baby steps. Not too long after I started following a low carb lifestyle, that's when intermittent fasting really started being talked about a little bit more. The first time I heard about intermittent fasting was on Dr. Oz. Yes, I used to watch it. Sorry if you still watch it. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I don't really watch The Good Doctor anymore. But the first time I heard about fasting, I was still watching him, and I won't lie, he had Michael Mosley on, who has his 5-2 plan, where basically you eat normal 5 days out of the week. You just eat your normal schedule. Pretty much you can eat what you want to eat. And then the other 2 days, you're eating something around 500 to 600 calories per day. And That sounded impossible to me because, like, the days that I got to eat anything I want, I was all for it. Like, that sounds like a dream. But knowing from my low calorie past, even like going down to 1,200 calories a day was so hard. So I don't know how I would have made it through 2 entire days with just 500 calories. Although at the time I was still pretty new to low carb, and being able to go back to eating carbs did sound intriguing to me. Luckily, I stuck with the low carb route and I added intermittent fasting as I was ready because I knew myself. After 20 years of nonstop yo-yo diets, I was finally seeing some success following a low carb plan. Like I said, I dropped 70 pounds just with low carb alone. And at this point, I finally gained some wisdom about myself. I finally figured out which plans are going to work for me, the sustainable ones, eating real food and slowly lowering carbs, versus which bad diets wouldn't work for me. And if I were to just eat anything I wanted while fasting, 2 days a week, that's kind of a little bit of a fad diet. It works for some people. For me, it would have been a fad diet because it's not a diet I would have been able to stick to. I would have been miserable on those 2 days where I could eat anything, on the 2 days where I had to restrict my calories to 500 if I wasn't fat adapted. And I knew myself. I knew I would have just crashed and burned. So even though I'd already been following low carb for several months before I added any form of intermittent fasting, I knew that 500 calories 2 days a week just wouldn't work for me. So hopefully if you're watching, you're starting to learn more about yourself and you're starting to figure out that if you're not already fat adapted, it probably won't work for you either. But once I took the plunge and I started an easy intermittent fasting plan, not that 5-2 plan, but an easier one that we're going to talk about today, um, I knew that, I wouldn't be able to do that 5-2 plan, both physically and mentally. But when I started fasting with just 12 hours, and most of that time I was sleeping, so 12 hours without eating maybe sounds like a lot, but if you're sleeping 8 hours out of that 12 hours, it's really not that hard. So when I started this really, really simple routine, my diabetic blood sugars dropped into normal ranges. I felt way more control around food than I ever had. And I actually made a big dent into the amount of weight that I wanted to lose. I still had a lot to lose at that point. So even though it isn't necessary to combine fasting with keto, the benefits that come from fasting the right way, combined with it just becoming really easy once your body becomes fat adapted, that makes it an amazing combo for weight loss and also for improved health. So let's talk about how I got started with fasting, the baby steps I took over time. So if you're not yet fasting, this is a great way to get started. It helped me. I know it's helped so many of our Keto Decoded members. So as I was just saying, I started with 12-hour fasts because, if you first hear about fasting and you hear of someone going an entire 24 hours with no food, that really does sound scary, and I can see why. I honestly thought that these people were nuts back when I first started because people, back in the day when we were all dieting, people who went an entire day and didn't eat any food, these were the people that were admitted to group homes, they were force fed, and they were labeled as anorexic. Thankfully, my beliefs changed and my thoughts changed, and I decided to continue to research intermittent fasting anyway. And I soon realized that strategically not eating at certain times wasn't anorexia at all. So if you still have that thought process, just know there is a strategy to it. And when you apply this strategy, you're not being anorexic because a lot of times you're actually eating more food than you did before you started fasting on your non-fasting days. So as long as you are fasting when it's time to fast and feasting when it's time to feast, it's actually a really good strategy to use, and you will not be admitted to any group homes, I promise. But the feasting part is super important when it comes to getting results with fasting. Kelly Ray said, fasting not just for having blood drawn. No, it's not. I remember when I was pregnant, they wanted a pregnant lady to fast without even any water. I think it was like 16 hours, and I thought they were insane. Like, I'm pregnant, I got to feed my baby. I didn't know all of the the fasting, the good things about fasting. Not that you should fast while you're pregnant, because you shouldn't unless your doctor tells you that you need to. Anyway, after sifting through all the research, I eased my way into that easy 12-hour fasting schedule. And, a lot of people talk about like, just go 12 hours without eating, and it sounds easy enough. But like I said before, to me, even going 12 hours was hard because I was one of those people that I didn't necessarily eat the second my eyes open. My husband's one of those people. He's reformed though. But I would eat up until I went to bed. I remember, before I started keto and intermittent fasting, I actually had a bag of Hershey's Kisses in my nightstand. And I would typically eat one or two right before I brushed my teeth and went to sleep. That was like my little treat to wind down the night after dealing with a fussy baby all day. That's something that I did. And it just was something that became a habit. So I definitely was eating almost right up until I went to bed. Let me know in the comments if any of this is sounding familiar to anyone, because I know I can't be the only one. Even before I started doing that, like it was my routine to have microwave popcorn, which is awful for you. Don't eat microwave popcorn. But I would eat microwave popcorn after dinner. That was my after dinner snack every night. I would eat it right after a workout. I had all of these bad habits that I thought I could get away with just because I was counting calories, and they were really destroying all of my weight loss efforts. So yes, going 12 hours for some people is just really easy. It's just normal. Like back in the days of June Cleaver, it was normal to just eat at breakfast and then, have 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then be done for the day. But then we have the food industry and the government sticking their noses and telling us that we need to constantly be eating at least every 2 to 3 hours, or else we're not going to be healthy. And honestly, nothing is further from the truth. If you are a healthy person, there are some people that do need to eat every 2 to 3 hours, and fasting isn't right for them. So you definitely need to keep doing your research to determine if fasting is even right for you. But for me, 12 hours was good. Even though I wasn't yet keto, I was still low carb. And basically, I just stopped eating after dinner, which for me was about 6 p.m. I went to bed somewhere around 9 or 10. So that means, I stopped eating somewhere about 3 hours before bed, which is what we usually recommend for our members, just to help your body digest and to get you into that nice fasted state. And then, once I woke up in the morning, I usually wait like an hour. And so when you add in the 3 hours plus the 1 hour I'd wait and the 8 hours of sleep, that's a 12-hour fast, just like that. And I know not everyone realizes that when you sleep, that's actually counted into your fasting time. So you're already fasting maybe 8 or 9 hours, so just add on a few more, and you can easily get up to that 12-hour routine. Yes, at first, when I first started, it was tempting to get popcorn after dinner. And there are times in the morning where maybe my stomach grumbled a little bit as I was waiting to eat. But it's really all about changing your habits. So if you just change your habits and you make these things your routine, it actually becomes really easy over time. CJ said that she feels like she needed chocolate right before going to bed. Yeah, that's how I was too. And now she's doing fat bombs, but she's having a hard time not eating one right before bed. So a lot of that, it's your mindset, it's your habits that you're forming. And the longer that you get these habits formed that are better for your health, the better off you are. Of course, I know there are some like chemistry imbalances that some people do need to eat before bed. Like if you are just new to keto and your body's not that adapted, and you're waking up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, that could actually be a sign that you're running out of fuel because your body's not that adapted yet. So you actually might need to eat closer to bed, and maybe you're not ready for fasting yet. But if that's not you and you are ready for this intermittent fasting, let's keep going while I talk about how I started fasting, why I started, and some of the health benefits that I got from it. So after following this routine for a few months of just 12 hours, along with lowering carbs and processed foods, my blood sugars dropped from somewhere around the 140 range, which is diabetic, to just around 90 or maybe even 95 while I was fasted. And that is a pretty big jump. That's going from diabetic blood sugars to nearly normal ranges. And a lot of times doctors have trouble doing this, even with the heavy duty diabetes medication. So I'm not saying you shouldn't listen to your doctor, because you should always listen to your doctor, but I'm just showing you that fasting can really have a big effect on helping those numbers come down, as long as you're doing it in a healthy way. So once I got that 12-hour routine down, then I added in a fasted workout, which again, if you're new to fasting, can also sound pretty scary. But when I added in that morning fasted workout, this took my fasting window from 12 hours to right around 14 hours most days. And this is because, I would stop eating at 6. I'd wake up probably around 6 and do a fasted cardio workout. It was just a light, simple workout, nothing too difficult. And then after I was done with that, I'd wait about another hour before I ate. So that added up to something like 14 hours. And if you're thinking, well, you don't do cardio, I don't do a ton of cardio anymore, but you just do weight training. Weight training fasted is actually really great too if you're fat adapted, because that's when your human growth hormone will start to spike when you're still in that fasted state. So that can actually help you build muscle more quickly. So it's not always necessary to eat like a heavy protein snack right before you lift weights, especially if you're just doing a quick weightlifting session like I commonly do. But if you're the type of person where you're doing a longer strength workout and you do want to eat before strength training, you can still do an easy fasted walk. We like to talk about that in our group a lot, just getting an easy fasted walk in the morning. And even though maybe it sounds hard, like you think you're going to be dragging on the ground because you're going to be so hungry, it actually helps you. It could help you fast longer because it helps your body get back to burning fat, gets you in a little bit deeper state of ketosis. So it actually can help you. I know I have some group members watching, so let me know if you've taken our advice and if you've tried these fasted walks. Let people know that it's not as scary as it sounds, because I know to me, fasted, I was always confused about if I should work out fasted, if I shouldn't. Now I know all the benefits, so usually when I work out, it is fasted, even if I've eaten that day, wait a few hours, so it feels like to my body that it's fasted, and I just get a lot more health benefits that way. Okay, so after this routine, maybe here on keto, a lot of people follow a 16-8 routine, and this is where you fast for 16 full hours, and then you only eat in an 8-hour window, or some people even do like an 18-6, where you fast 18 hours and you eat in that 6-hour window. So, once I had done 14 hours for a while, I decided to shift my fasting schedule up to 16 hours. And to be honest, by this point, I was already fat adapted. And so the shift was more mental than really it was physical. Like maybe I experienced a little bit of hunger here or there. But as long as you can feel hunger is okay to feel, as long as it's not like that shaky hunger where you just need to eat something or you feel like you're going to fall over. But if you're just a little bit hungry, then you can follow some of my fasting tips. I'm going to give you a fasting tip sheet in a few minutes, but you can follow some of those tips to help bring you through to your fast, and it's actually not that hard. And once you get used to it, it just kind of becomes normal. So like for me, I don't really ever eat before 10 a.m. anymore. Like it would just feel weird too. Maybe if I go out to breakfast with my family or if I'm a holiday or something like that, I might eat earlier. But like on a normal, typical day, it almost seems strange to eat anything before 10. For me, a lot of times it's actually even before noon because I usually just fast until lunch. I'm usually busy working or taking care of my kids, doing something like that. So fasting just makes life easy. You just have so much time back. And even though people think they're gonna, be drowning in energy, you get a lot more energy once you get your routine down. But just know that it took time to work up to that. It's not something that I just did overnight and it was easy, and smooth sailing from there on out. This took me time to actually work up to this schedule, but once I did work up to that 16-hour routine, it just made life easier. It made working out fasted easier, and it made eating strange outside of that window. So just know that, work up to the routine. It's really easy once you get it. I know it sounds scary, but it's easy. Kelly Ray said she didn't die. She ended up feeling like she had more energy, and that was weird, but she was excited for the results. Like I just talked about, there's so many misconceptions from people who don't fast, and don't let those beliefs get stuck in your head. You'll never know until you try it. Of course, you want to be doing it right, because if you're doing things like having sweeteners in your coffee while you're fasting, you're breaking your fast. You're not really fasting, and it's going to make it harder. If you're having little bites of food here and there, it's also going to make it harder, both to keep fasting, but also when it comes to results. So, definitely follow the clean fast that Jen Stevens always talks about. She's a great fasting resource. I learned a ton from her. Even after I lost all my weight with fasting and keto, I actually started following her then, and I still learned a ton more. So she's a great resource. Lee asks, is there a potential problem with eating enough calories in the eating window? Yeah, there is, and people can stall that way. So a lot of people end up eating OMAD, which isn't my favorite plan, especially if you're trying to lose weight. So if you like that OMAD, which is one meal a day, and you like that feeling of just having to eat one meal per day, I would reserve that more for when you're already at your goal weight, and not so much when you're trying to lose weight, because a lot of times your body can adjust to that one meal. So you might lose a ton of weight at first and you might feel great, but a lot of people actually end up stalling on OMAD for that reason, because either you're probably not eating enough calories in one meal. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, because I could have meals where, I could down a bunch, especially if you're eating high fat. But for most people, hormonally, you're going to get too full if you're only eating one meal per day. And if you undereat for too long, like too long over a period of time, that's when you can actually run into trouble. So I don't recommend counting calories at all while you're eating, but I do recommend listening to your body. But if you think that you are getting in too little calories for you, then I do recommend tracking in an app, just to make sure you're not under eating every day. If you have a day or two where you barely hit 1,000 calories, you're going to be okay. But if you have 4 weeks in a row where you're eating less than 1,000 calories every day because you're fasting, you can definitely run into a problem like that. Your metabolism is going to slow down and you're going to hit a stall, and then it's going to be even harder to get the weight off. So yes, there is a problem, not just when it happens 1 or 2 days or a day here or there, but when you do it long term, there definitely is a problem. Mary said she's been doing 16/8 since the beginning of the challenge, and it's pretty easy. Yeah, because she's been following keto for a while, and she's had some pretty good success on it. So once you're in that fat adapted state, it actually becomes so much easier. I know there's plans out there where you don't have to follow keto or low carb, and you could do fasting. And that's really the harder route, not only physically and mentally for you, but it's going to be harder on your body. It's going to be harder to drop fat, because your body is looking for that easy fuel source. It's not able to tap into your fat stores yet. You can get into ketosis just through fasting. So you don't have to eat low carb or keto to get into a state of ketosis at all. You can do it through fasting, but it really is the harder route. So it's not something we recommend. And for some people, it doesn't ever work at all. So for some people, they can do it. It just takes time. It's harder. But some people, it never even works. So it's not something that I recommend it. So basically, that's my story. I started with intermittent fasting by working my way up slowly through these daily fasts, and I allowed my body time to adjust. So like everything we talk about in here, it's really just the baby steps, and adding intermittent fasting to your routine can really be that simple. Now, one of the worst things you could do is stress your body out, because intermittent fasting is a stressor on your body. So if you are stressing your body out too much, then your cortisol is going to spike. And when cortisol is high, that's when a lot of people stall when it comes to fasting. So like I said, you want to be fat adapted when you are fasting. And if you're feeling overly stressed, then maybe you want to wait a little while until you get into that fat adapted state before you add in fasting. So if this does sound like something that, maybe you don't have in your routine yet, or maybe you are following fasting, but it's not as easy as you'd like it to be, I did put together a list of 10 tips to help make fasting easier. So just be sure and comment on the video, and I can send that right over to you. CJ said she knows everyone is different, but is there an easy way to know if you're fat adapted? One of the easiest ways to know if you're fat adapted is just by listening to your body. So, like Jessica mentioned earlier in the video, if fasting just comes natural to you, like it's not hard, you're not overly hungry, you're not forcing it, that's a good way to know that you're fat adapted. If you're commonly in ketosis on the ketone meter, if you're checking for that, and it's always showing above 0.5, there's a pretty good chance that you're fat adapted, or you're getting there, you're at least on the way. But it's really just about how you feel. Like, do you feel good most of the time? Do you have energy? Can you go longer periods without eating? Is the food satisfying you? Do you not have a lot of cravings? Because if you're still having a lot of cravings for carbs, chances are your body is not running off of the fat, your fat stores, so you're probably not fat adapted. So those are some of the ways to tell if you're not fat adapted. You just have to tune in and listen to your body. So I think that's all the questions, but I did want to get to one more thing before I sign off today. And this one is really exciting. If you're on my email list, you already heard about it. If you're not on my email list, you should be on there. I'm starting to send out some really amazing recipes, and of course, all my blogs and everything. But I am super excited to announce that TC and I just introduced our Commit to 6 program. And this is our brand new one-on-one coaching program where we are coaching those who maybe tried keto before but you didn't have the results you wanted, or anyone who's still struggling with any major digestive symptoms that you can't quite figure out. Because like we've talked about, if you're struggling with these symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, acne, blood pressure problems, and heartburn, things like that, if you're struggling with this and you can't get it figured out, it actually is blocking your weight loss pretty much no matter what diet you try. And it's also probably not making you feel great. So we are starting this Commit to 6 program where we're basically taking your hand, we're walking you through your keto transformation for an entire 6 months, and we are going to be working with you in a one-on-one setting. So this is a program that's actually designed specifically for you. It's not some random program that you find on the internet. It is designed based on your body chemistry, based on your digestive capabilities, and based on the lifestyle you want to lead. So TC is going to be looking at your chemistry with some easy to perform self-tests. They are easy to perform, not always as easy to interpret. So he will be looking over those numbers and giving you the right foods and the right supplements customized to you. Because believe it or not, even though coconut oil is great for me on keto, if you have certain imbalances and you eat coconut oil, it's going to make it worse for you and it's going to make it harder to lose weight. Same thing with different fats and different meats. So we can definitely help you basically cheat on your program by giving you recommendations that are right for your body to make this all a lot easier. Of course, I'll be with you for 6 months as well, coaching you through all of your mindset issues, making sure that your food plan and your macros are on point and that you're adjusting them correctly as you go through this 6-month program. Now, our new one-on-one program has coaching calls via Zoom, so you'll just be one-on-one with either me or TC, but we also will have 2 times a month group coaching calls with our VIP clients, so that way you also have a chance to get to know each other and learn from each other. And of course, you have access to us for the entire 6 months to help you make adjustments to completely transform your life. Now, the consultation calls with TC are already starting to book up. He has several this week, and these are people who are ready to make their big transformation. And we only want to work with people who are vowing to put in the work because we want to get some pretty big results from this program. So if you think that this sounds like a good fit for you, definitely let me know. Send me a private message, or you can even comment on the video, let me know, and I'll send you the information, because we're only working with a few people. We're only working with people that are right for the program because we want to make sure that you're committed and you're ready to get results. So drop a comment below if you want those 10 tips to make your fasting easier. I see some people are already requesting it. So once I'm off here, I'll send it right over. If you are ready to completely transform your life with our Commit to 6 program, send me a direct message so that we can figure out if you are a right fit. If we're not friends on Facebook, let's be friends on Facebook, but also let me know, because when you're not friends with someone on Facebook and they send you a message, Facebook will hide it. I was actually just going through my messages the other day and I found messages from 2018 that I never responded to because I never even knew they were there. So anytime you're not friends with someone on Facebook, let them know if you're sending them a message. But let's be friends. I want to be friends on Facebook. Okay, that's all I got for you today. I will see you again next week. Same Healthy Fat channel, same Healthy Fat